Hello friends, I am Ukrainian refugee and future Ukrainian doctor, and as a refugee I want to inform you quite interesting event in Russia that will happen. It may be very interesting, very important, and I cannot pass it by. And this event will happen on Sunday in the middle of the day, 12 o'clock, 12 o'clock by the Moscow time. This event will be a protest of Russians against the war in Ukraine. It is quite something new, but I want to say to you some details. How I got this information? This information appeared from the message of one Telegram channels of Russian city Belgorod. Belgorod, it is a city near Ukrainian border. It is next to Kharkiv region, and because the Russians, they using the territory of Belgorod, this region for intensive everyday shelling of Kharkiv. Kharkiv, it is the second by population city in Ukraine and maybe very important for Russians because in the USSR time it was like a first capital in Ukraine, first city they captured and made this in the beginning of the 20th century capital. So for them it's like for some memory and restoring USSR, it's very important. So they very intensively shell this city, and a lot of the shells, a lot of missiles, they do not reach their goal because they old and they fell on the territory of Belgorod. So they seems like Russians, they shelling themselves sometimes, and also Ukrainians, they have some answers, and they destroying some warehouses, some military objects, oil base on the territory of Belgorod. So in Belgorod region, people, they really feel this war, not just in the television as the rest of the Russians, but it happens just near them, and even in the two districts of Belgorod, pupils in the school of this district, they even study distantly because people, they afraid teachers, yes, and parents, they afraid for their children. And so also the week before, when Ukrainian army had an intensive counter-attack and the front line, the main fights, they changed this line which was changed, and from the middle of Kharkiv region in Ukrainian territory, it's got to closer to Russia, and actually Ukrainians, they returned and established control under the the official border, and so the military actions, they maybe even now they didn't stop in the territory of this Russia near this border and this territory of Belgorod region. So people, they, as we can summarize, they afraid and they feel this war now. And so this message in Telegram channel, I told you on the very beginning of this video, they said that it is, we announced some event, but the first lines, the first words in this message is like, it's not a protest. No, it's not a protest. It's the, but it is cry for our souls, of our souls, and begging for help. So maybe you remember that in some videos before I told you that Russians, the difference between Ukrainians and Russians, that Ukrainians always protest and they always saying their opinion about anything, but in Russia people never protest, and it is very, that's why it is very important event that they are want to protest, but anyway they do not, like they cannot or they afraid, or they shy to call this protest by the protests, so they call it like a cry of the soul, like begging for help, and they want to address it to Putin, to the government. So they are so poor, so they have some demands, but actually it's not demands. They just crying and have this problem. So it's maybe in such a way they could could say to the government that they are suffering, and they want to make the government with this something. And the demands, maybe not the demands, but their like problems they want to say to the government, would like to say, it is the three of them. First, that these people, they want to establish peace, peaceful life in Russian cities and villages. It first one. Second, what they want, it's the how to say, elimination of shelling and terror in the Belgorod region. The third thing, it's they want to receive finally the payments from the government to the families that have a dead Russian soldiers that died on the territory of Ukraine. And the end of this message is like, don't be afraid. It's time to get used to talking about the problems and that concern us. And so that is that is the demands of Russians, or okay, like their what they want, they like the cry of their souls. And it means that Russians, the Russian government, they do not pay for not for all soldiers that died on the territory of Ukraine. I know that it was in the Kiev region in the spring that our mass media informed that Russians, the battalions, some units, they have some special vehicles that are actually the how to say, the, I don't know how to proper word in English, but it is for burning the bodies. So they don't want to bury it, to send it to Russia to bury it, but they just burn it, and it's the ashes could be just thrown somewhere, I don't know, or just they dig somewhere and put it in some ground, but it will be not big, not need a lot of space as a real dead man. So this was the assumption of the purpose of these vehicles to burn the corpse of Russian soldiers was probably do not return them to Russia, do not return them to their relatives, and actually do not pay for these dead soldiers. Because if you just burn them and throw somewhere this ash, the commanders could say just to relatives that, sorry, your son disappeared somewhere in Ukraine, we don't know what happened to him, and we don't know, maybe he is alive, so we will not pay to you a lot. So maybe he's alive, maybe he escaped in Europe, I don't know, maybe he stayed in Ukraine, we don't know what happened, maybe he married in Ukraine, I don't know. So there was like a purpose of this burning the dead men, Russian dead men, and also maybe they also burning some victims of their terror on the territory of Ukraine to get rid of evidence. But anyway, you see that Belgorod region, after Ukrainian counterattack, felt real. They felt it all the time, all this half of the year, but maybe this previous week was the most intensive, and people, they're afraid. They try to get to some other regions of Russia, who have relatives, I don't know, in the eastern part of Russia, in the Moscow, in St. Petersburg, other cities. They try to move out from Belgorod. So that is my announcement. That is my video for today. I hope that we will watch this video, watch this event, and it will be very interesting if these the participants of this meeting, so-called Russians, they will be freed, or they will be free after this, or Russian police will throw these people, some the most people who will be the leaders of this gathering, they could be in a prison, imprisoned, and will spend some days in police departments. So it is very interesting, the reaction of the Putin, of the government, and what they command to do with this meeting to the local powers of Belgorod. Yeah, so that is my video, and it is quite late today, so I'm going to to sleep. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and see you in the next time. Bye, guys.